We move on to the next topic in the subject of organizational behavior, which is a subject that MBA students study. The subject is communication. So let us communicate about communication. This is one of my favorite topics because it's pervasive. Everybody has to do it. And I think everybody should learn about communication. Every human being, not only managers and executives and businessmen and entrepreneurs, everybody, because everybody has to communicate. And you are always communicating, whether you know it or not. Even if you are not speaking, people can look at you. You are moving around, you are sitting somewhere, and there is somebody in the room. If he looks at you, he looks at your body language, the way you are sitting, your expressions, even that tells him or her something. So your body language, your expressions, your posture, the distance, how big your room is, how distant you are sitting from somebody else, everything is sending out signals. So people around you catch those signals. So you are transmitting those signals all the time, whether you speak or not, whether you are speaking and listening and they are listening, or whether they are writing what you have read or not. Even silently you are sending signals to others and they are interpreting it and understanding it in their own way. So communication is happening all the time when two people are present, you know, whether they are silent or talking or not talking. So people are transferring those signals knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, subconsciously. So it is happening all the time. So you cannot not communicate. You are communicating whether you like it or not, or whether you want it to or not. And when you are consciously communicating, when you are writing, you are speaking, somebody is listening, then of course that is the explicit part of communication. So we need to do it. We have to do it because in human interactions, what else is there? That is a major part of human interactions. And we have this fantastic gift of language, which animals have a very limited other animals, if we consider humans also as animal part of the animal kingdom, other species do not have as much of linguistic capabilities as we do. The information, the language, the written language, the spoken language and stuff like that, we have developed a much better format. So that's why, whether you are a family, friends, business, professional, personal, communication is everywhere and everybody has to do that. So learning to communicate is crucial, extremely important, and everybody should be a good and an effective communicator. A good communicator is when somebody is able to explain to you whatever he wants to explain to you. If I am saying something that I am able to convey my message to you, then yeah, I am a good communicator. If I am unable to convey my message, if I am unable to make you understand, if you are unable to understand me, then I am a bad communicator. If I am an efficient communicator, I'll do it quickly without more efforts. I'll be able to explain to you quickly and without spending too much effort. That is efficient communication. Then there is effective communication. When I am able to get what I want by communicating. Let's say I'm communicating as a manager and I want my juniors or my subordinates to be feel motivated. Then if through my communication I'm able to motivate them, then am I getting the desired effect from them? Then that is effective communication. When you wanted, there was a purpose behind the communication and you were able to achieve that purpose. The purpose was effected. You were effective enough to get the effect that you wanted. So then you are an effective communicator. So there is good communication where understanding happens, efficient communication where understanding happens and happens without spending of much time and energy and efforts, and effective communication where the communicator gets the desired results from his audience, whatever he wanted to. Simple effective communication. There may be simple effects or there might be complex results or outcomes that you desire. You might want to inspire people and motivate people, or you simply want somebody to understand something and just follow your instruction. That is also effective, but that's simple effective. The complex effective part would be where you want to inspire them and motivate them, and more of emotional this thing, where you want them to follow you, kind of, if you are a leader. So of course, the objective is to be all three: good, efficient, and effective. But effectiveness is primary. We must be effective communicators. And there was a famous thinker, Stephen Covey, who wrote a famous book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, stressed the point of effectiveness in communication. He said, in communication, don't worry too much about efficiency, but try to aim for effectiveness. For example, if you tell somebody that, look, you want to talk to somebody and it is important that you communicate, but you say, look, I'll give you only 5 minutes. Maybe that person will not be able to communicate to you in 5 minutes. Maybe that person needs time to open up. Some people need time to open up. They are shy, they are withdrawn, they are introvert, whatever it is. They find it difficult to speak, they are hesitant, they are afraid, they are nervous. And you want them to speak, you want to understand them, you want to listen to them, and you said, look, I'll give you 5 minutes, tell me whatever you have to tell me. Now let's say you have a relationship with your son and daughter, and that's a complex relationship, and you want to communicate well with your children, and you don't find it easy to communicate, there is some awkwardness, and you give your daughter 10 minutes and 5 minutes and say, tell me, and she may not even say anything for 5 minutes. That is not the way it is going to happen. So you must give sufficient time. If you don't have time, reschedule it. If time runs out, you say, let us continue this discussion some other time. So next time, if it takes 5 hours, spend 5 hours. If it takes 10 hours, spend 10 hours. Maybe you don't have to or can't do it in one stretch. Do it in installments. But don't say, I'll only give you this much time and we have to be efficient, and there is a sense of efficiency that it was done. Okay, we communicated. The purpose was achieved. You think the purpose has been achieved. That is just a false sense of achievement. There was no communication that really happened. You didn't really get to know each other. She didn't really open up. She didn't really communicate, and it was only superficial. So then focusing on efficiency would not work. You give the person as much time as he or she needs, depending. Some topics are sensitive, and you have to do it a number of times. Give sufficient time for the other person to open up. Some people can be quick and fluent. Some people need time. There is hesitation, shyness, looking for words, how to express something. It's complicated. Takes time. You have to be patient. So if you can't do it in one sitting, do it in several sittings. So, and listen with empathy. Listening is also an important part of communicating. If I am speaking and others are just pretending to listen, then communication is not going to happen, because it is just me producing words, and those words are not reaching them. They are pretending to listen, but they are not actually paying attention. So communication will happen only when the other party listens to you. And when you are a listener, you must listen very closely, very attentively, not just hear, but listen. And listen with empathy, so that the other person can really confide in you, talk to you, pay attention to them, necessary eye contact, pay attention, and let that person feel as if you are the other person, and then only the other person will speak and confide in you and really communicate openly. So listening with empathy is also an important part of communication, as Covey talked about. So everybody has to communicate, should be good communicators. If you look at any executive, a manager, a businessman, an entrepreneur, look at what he or she does. Most of the job is communication. What does a manager produce, or a businessman produce, or an executive produce? What does he actually do? They don't actually go and fix things. They don't work with their hands. They don't work with things. Workmen do it. Technicians do it. Managers, executives, businessmen basically do not actually work with their hands and operate things and machinery. They work with people and through people. And when you are working with and through people, management is getting things done through people. The only way to work with and through people is by communication. So most of the time you are communicating. That is your job. That is the only work that you do. What does a manager do? apart from transport, going from one place to another, uh, just try to think or anticipate what a person's job is. He speaks, he writes, he reads. There is a meeting, he talks on the phone, he listens on the phone, he conducts meetings, he writes things, he reads things, he gives instructions, he listens to people, many people. That's all. What else is he doing? Maybe he thinks. So the thinking part is not communicating. The traveling part is not communicating formally. Otherwise, everything that he or she does is communication. So when most of your job is communicating, how can you ignore that job? Most of your work involves communication. It is imperative to become a good, efficient, effective communicator. There is no escaping it. Everybody has to. No way out of it. There are problems, and this is a complex process because there are chances of messages getting distorted, getting misunderstood by people. That happens all the time. Like in power, there is transmission and distribution losses. The amount of power that you generate and what finally reaches, there is some loss, heat loss. Naturally, some power will be wasted through heat and all that. So whatever you say, the other person doesn't understand everything, even if you try very hard. There are problems in the process itself. That is human psychology at play, and it is not only your fault. The other party is also involved, and people have their own perceptions and attitudes and interpretations. You say something, but they have their own way of interpreting it. They have their own way of understanding it. They have their own way of perceiving it. Sometimes they hear things that you didn't say. It's like reading between the lines. They try to catch signals which you're not giving. It is meta communication. They read more into it than actually, you say something, they understand something else. They don't literally listen to the words. Maybe they listen to those words literally what you are trying to say, but they are always looking at why is he saying that, what is his motive behind it, why now, what is he trying to say, that look at how you are speaking, your body language and everything else, and they have their own way of interpreting things. Sometimes they misunderstand you despite your best efforts. Sometimes because there is their own way of perceiving things. Sometimes they read more into it, sometimes they don't pay attention, they are unable to pay attention also all the time. So whatever you write, even if you are writing, it is a written communication or oral communication, there is always chance that something else is understood, something is not understood. So there are difficulties in the process. And Oscar Wilde famously said that I live in constant fear of not being misunderstood. So misunderstanding is common, understanding is uncommon. So you are scared of things that you are not familiar with. So Wilde always felt that people misunderstood him, so he was comfortable with. He was not scared of being misunderstood. He was scared of being understood because that was something unique for him, new for him. And you are always afraid of something new and unique and different. You are not afraid of the routine stuff. So it was a humorous saying, but it is an extremely important thing that misunderstanding is most likely going to happen, some percentage of it, not fully. So these are the inherent difficulties in the process. The inherent difficulty is human psychology, two different human beings trying to communicate with each other. 100% transmission and distribution is not going to happen. There is generation of the message, but the message may not be received 100%. There will be maybe 100 and maybe some additional understanding will be taken out of it, or maybe something will be lost in the process, lost in translation. There was a famous film or a book or something. So communication is an inherently complex process. So we have to be mindful of the fact. We'll continue this discussion in the next session. Thank you.